This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. A few months ago, I was walking through the mountain town of Zakopane in Poland, and something caught my eye. This beautiful set of forged crampons. And so I went inside, I asked to have a look, and then I knew that this was something that I had to make. You'll remember, Jamie and I recently went to Chamonix after I made this Damascus steel ice pick and we ice climbed with it. Well, we were using these modern style crampons, and when this particular set arrived, have a look at what was on the box. Nothing other than the very same design of crampons I saw in Poland, 1909, first modern crampon, Eckenstein Gravel. Eckenstein went to the Gravel Forge with a design for these crampons. He made them for him, and from their small village forge in the Alps, Gravel is now a massive climbing brand, made the first crampons that ascended Everest. And I have found an incredible bit of footage from their forge in 1956. So let's have a play and go back through time and find out how on earth we could forge a pair of our own crampons. So in this awesome video from 1956, we can see how they're making crampons. Pretty sick. They have a template with a bunch of holes in it. It's 3mm steel, they've even got the measurements, and they just scribe on where the holes have to go and then drill where the holes are. The holes are there, presumably, so that it doesn't crack as they then bend it out. But what this means is that this is for making the lighter weight crampons. In 1933, thanks to mid-carbon alloy steels, they were able to make the superleggeri crampons, which are obviously much lighter weight than the earlier variety of crampons that I saw in person in Poland. So it would have been made out of mild steel or wrought iron. 3mm steel simply wouldn't be capable of not bending were it not for it being mid-carbon alloy steel. And here they're using this awesome shear to just punch out where stuff needs to be punched out before going to actually forging themselves to get the points down. In the video, it shows them making the crampons out of like a big square of plate steel. I can't quite figure out how to make the steel come out of a square, but I can figure out how to make it come out of a strip. Here's our front crampon. Then if we were to bend this here, we'd get our hole, bend it again, that comes out there. Then our crampon points can be bent up quite simply, as well as the loops for holding the ring and the leather bindings. So hopefully that gives an idea of how that front part of the crampon assembly is going to be made. I'm gonna make these crampons without the use of the belt grinder or the angle grinder. We do have a gas forge instead of a coal forge. This is mostly gonna be chisel, hammer, anvil. I've got this bar of 5mm steel. I have to figure out how to mesh these components on there before we start punching some holes. Okay, so I'm gonna trim it, then I'm gonna mark it with a cold chisel, then I'm gonna punch the holes.
I thought you said no power tools.
I'm allowed to use the power tool to sharpen the hand tools, Jamie.
How would they have sharpened their chisels back in the day?
With a water-powered grinder.
Well, where's one of them then?
Well, in the Alps.
Oh, that's it.
Wow, I can't see any of my marks. Really does make you, for the first time ever, love angle grinders. And that's saying a lot because I hate angle grinders. It's just that this is a lot more effort. All right, so now we have a very exciting thing up ahead of us, and that is taking all of these sharp burrs from chiseling it and filing them. because in order to forge this, I don't want any of this sharp stuff. These holes here, better make sure there's a neat transition between these two chiseled cuts so that there's less likely to be a crack. And that's a feature that obviously they were doing in the Grivel Forge in 1956, and that's something that we're replicating here, albeit with punched holes instead of the drilled holes they're using. It looks pretty rough and awful at the moment. Let it cool down, do some filing. Ugh, that's awful. That's horrible. Jamie, why are we doing this without power tools?
Because that's how they did in the 1900s.
Ah!
I already have a headache as well. Why are you making these without power tools?
Oh crap, Jamie, oh no, come here. There's a problem. Jamie, all of this filing has been powered by the most beboppin' hoppity poppin' 80s Spotify playlist.
Well, that's not good. They didn't have that in the 1900s.
No, we've ruined it. No, it was even worse. It was disco classics.
They were definitely not listening to that in Grivel Forge. You're gonna start again then?
I think we've got to. Scrap it. After a good old slog with the file, that is what we're looking like right now. It's still quite rough, and so it's going to need more forging. All these points have to be forged out neatly. I also have to make sure that we've got the measurements right for the boot, and that might involve needing to stretch something out in one place or another. So the forge is heating up. While the forge heats up, there's something else I want to do. Where did we go recently, Jamie?
We went to the Alps.
Yes, we did. We went ice climbing, and you saw a tiny snippet of that, but there was even more cool stuff that we did, and I want to be able to remember that trip properly. You know what that means? It means we use the magic word, forge. Let's have a look at some template options here. We got tons of options. What do you like?
I like that yellow.
You like that yellow? I quite like that, a little bit more orangey. Steel Outdoors. We gotta find a domain, and it is this easy. Get a domain. Steel Outdoors is taken. Steel Adventure.
What about if
Yeah.
you have a steel block?
Yeah.
What about a steel adventure?
A steel adventure. That's brilliant. And it's as easy as confirm payment. Boom! Let's now make a blog post. Ice climbing in Chamonix. So now what I want to do is I want to insert a map so that people can orient themselves. And we're going to do it to the bus station we arrived at. We can also change the theme here from grayscale to satellite.
That's quite a cool little feature.
Isn't this awesome? And then we can even add controls so that you can move around here. Then underneath, I'm going to add a little bit of text for mountaineering of all kinds. We finished out the blog post and we've adjusted the rest of the template on the website to fit. We've added photos, more maps, and more behind the scenes. But of course, if we wanted to sell products, have exclusive paid to access members areas, or sell our time using Squarespace scheduling, we could do it there too. So please be sure to go to squarespace.com/forge to get a 2-week free trial and 10% off your first purchase, including your domain, with code FORGE at checkout. Speaking of Forge, it's hot. Let's get back to work on the crampons. All right, let's see what we can do here. I think this one's a little straightened. Able to forge this stuff, I'm gonna have to bend things out of the way. Okay, so what I'm hammering on now isn't a point. This is for a loop that holds the leather. This one is a point. This one's a point too. This is so hard trying to find the spot on the anvil to work. Right, I'm now thinning out that front point area just a little bit. Get a nice taper going. It's going to be cut down probably to about there. Now we have our points forged. The second set of them went a lot better than the first. I'm now going to make the 90-degree bends that separates the actual crampon spikes from the hooks for the leather. In she goes. So now, right about here and right about there, we need to bend this into a U, into like a horseshoe-looking thing, but the width has to be just right. If I bend it too narrow, it's not going to adequately support that front of the foot, I bend it too wide, the outer spikes are just gonna be way off in the middle of nowhere, which we don't want. I can look at the drawing and say we probably want to bend at about 85 millimeters. There. I'm gonna use the torch and get a spot heat there. Pretty cool to me to think that, like, some blacksmith working away in his workshop, early 1900s, English dude walks in, hey, I want you to make me a pair of crampons. He goes, what are crampons? Because they don't exist yet. And he would have had to figure it out with even less of an understanding of what was going on than I have. Okay, let those cool down and see how they fit. Sit right about there. Oh, that's pretty bloody good, isn't it, Jamie? I can at last put our little hole in right there. Woo! There's the plug. Right, now the keen-eyed amongst you will note that I have done something slightly different to these crampons as compared to the ones that I saw in Poland. Our new website is live, and what we've also done is we've made a blog post about these crampons and their history, so that we can look at our reference photos there, and so that you can also see them too, in case you want to build your own. What are we noticing? Well, these ones in Poland don't have these front points right here. When Gravel made those first crampons, they were 10-point crampons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At the time, mountaineers would be climbing by cutting footsteps with an ice axe, and so they only climbed sideways. So in 1909, they never stuck the front of their crampons into the ice. It was only when these came about, the Gravel Superleggeri, in 1936, thanks to new chromoly alloys and evolving climbing techniques, they began using front points. Because I intend to take these into the mountain, I'm making them a little bit of a hybrid of the 1909-1936 crampons, because, like safety, not falling off the mountain and dying, that type of stuff. So let's see what comes next. We need to make the back assembly, which features a bar that comes forwards and interacts with this loop, and the cardboard for it looks like this. Just like we did for this front piece, we're gonna chisel it out, and then I'm gonna take this blob, forge that into that bar, and then our crossbar with the additional 2 points is gonna be forge welded on.
Do you reckon it took Gravel 9 days to make a single crampon?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if old Mr. Gravel was a much better blacksmith than I am. So he probably made the entire pair in a day. I'm a little bit concerned about how long it's going to take me to make these things. So I went ahead and got the points forged out for the rear half of the crampon and got it bent, because anything I have to do here is going to need this out of the way. I want to see how it fits, see if we're at least headed in the right direction. And it's too wide here at the back. Bent it in a little bit narrower and it looks much nicer on the boot. And check this out, when our front piece goes on, I think that this is shaping up to fit perfectly. So all I got to do now is make a component to forge weld on here with our middle spikes. All right, so there's our middle section, and what I've gone ahead and done is filed the sides as well as the main face. I've done the same on our middle linking bar. I want this to be extra clean, and the filing's probably not necessary because of the flux that we're going to use. So the plan is to forge weld these things together like this. And I'm going to be using this flux. It's called Iron Mountain flux. And if you look close, you can see it's different to the normal type of flux that we use. It actually has iron filings inside it, hence the name, instead of just the borax alone, like you see me typically use on Damascus. Let me tell you what, I learned this about 10 years ago from Brian Brazil. This flux allows you to tack the material together at a red heat. It also allows you to do a really low temperature forge weld. Those iron filings in there, they do something special. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna heat both these pieces up to a red temperature, pour a healthy mound of this on either one, heat it up again, tap them together, it should be stuck, and then we'll heat it up again to forge welding temperature, a little rippity-tappity, and they should be forge welded together nicely. Hopefully stuck there for eternity. I'm now gonna forge down the material for the loop that connects it to the front part. I'm having a really good time on this project. This is so mentally stimulating. Oh, how thrilling. Oh, yes. That is so cool. Okay, reference photos. Where's my phone? Are we missing anything? Okay, see that? There's a little wiggle right there in that bar. The metal jogs up. I believe that's to help solve this little angle issue we have going on. Here at the front, we have contact on the crampon, but back here, we don't. There's the air. Exactly the same there. Common feature, regardless of the crampon's vintage, is that little jog. Hammer, I don't have a hammer. Ow, I don't have a hammer with me. Ow, ow, that's hot. Done something. I mean, it's not perfectly matching the boot, but neither would the other ones, I don't imagine. The spikes that we're gonna be attaching these rings to, I think I've made them way too big. They're way too thick, way too long, so we've got to cut them down and prepare them for rolling. This is where we check if it fits before we finally join these things together forever. That looks pretty good. Hell yes. Ow, everything's loud in here. Gotta sharpen the spikes. So this is a crampon singular. And it would have been really smart to be making the other half while I was making this. I would potentially have got 30–40% efficiency increase, but I didn't know if this half of the set of crampons was going to work, so I didn't. Now that it has worked, Jamie very kindly hopped to the angle grinder and belt grinder to get these parts cut out. We made one half of the crampons, largely traditionally. Obviously, oxypropane torch, and so because I'm running out of time, I'm gonna use the grinder and angle grinder on this one where I have to. Hopefully this half turns out even better than the first.
Right, how many hours do you think it took you to make the first pair?
I think it probably took me at least 12 hours to make the first pair.
And it's taken you
3, 4. I am so much quicker on this go around. They look better also. See, I've got an entire one in the forge there, because though these crampons are made out of mild steel, I'm gonna do my best to get them a little bit harder. So we're gonna harden them. Mild steel, 0.2% carbon. What I've found is a little water quench on mild steel gives you something. It's not enough to make a tool or a knife by any stretch of the imagination, but a little bit of something is going to be helpful to toughen these bad boys up. It's a shame that when we make duplicates of things, we show you the first attempt where it's really messy and I have no idea what I'm doing, and then we rush on through the second attempt where I actually know what I'm doing. Do you know when I was saying that if I'd made them both at the same time, I probably would have had like a 30% efficiency increase? Turns out, I actually think it really made a lot more sense that I made them separately, because the efficiency increase was nuts here. Alrighty, so next up, we gotta talk leather. These crampons need to be affixed to the boot somehow. Modern ones snap in place thanks to a lever, and the strap is just there to make sure that it doesn't fully distance itself from the boot if that mechanism fails. But from what I can see of the historical examples, either cotton canvas webbing type stuff or cow leather was used. So I've ordered some strips. Also got some of these, as well as my favorite way of joining bits of leather together, copper rivets with the washer. It always looks so good. We have to work out how these things are strapped. The buckles are on the outside. We have a bit of leather start here, cross to the front loops, come over the toe, and then back over to this midfoot. Oh, that's why it doesn't fit. That's a right boot. So with a buckle in there, it wants to look something like that. I'm just so pumped about how cool this looks. I've had one coat of leather wax on it. We're gonna do another one in a second, but just after we begin the last bit of metal work on the project. Okay. Oh! How good! Reference photos again. You see there is this additional little loop of metal. Come back down here, zoom in on the 1936 models, another loop of metal back there. It connects from this ring, it goes around the heel welt and then back to this ring. Contrast that to the modern automatic crampon style where there is a toe bail. We need just a heel bail. Some 3 or 4 mil wire should probably do the trick. So that goes here, let's see if it fits. Over the top. Oh! And so now we've got to find out, how do these hand-forged crampons compare to their modern counterparts? What would it have been like to climb mountains with them in the early 1900s? Will they work or will they fail? We're going back to the Polish Tatra Mountains, where this journey all started, to find out.
That's really good. Turn up the monk. Now going to switch over to the old school ones for the descent.
They feel so solid. They feel just as solid as new crampons. Hey, tell you what though, these old crampons do lose on one front. Look at this.
Well, because you know it's without the...
There's no anti-balling
Anti-ball.
plates. So that's super dangerous. This right here, on the modern one, that rubber is what stops the snow from accumulating. They didn't have no rubber on 1909 crampons.
So we climbed all the way up to the top of that thing, then we walked off down this snow, and then it's just in the snow all the way back.
What we've learned is the old crampons feel really good on the feet. They feel sticky until they don't. As soon as the snow balls up inside there, without the balling plates, that rubber to release it, it just makes this big ball of snow, which then makes the crampons completely ineffective. So the mountaineers of the early 1900s would have had to have a very keen sense for when their crampons were clogged up with snow in order that they knock off the snow regularly. I'm not surprised if forgetting to knock off the snow on old crampons has been fatal.
While I was waiting in Krakow airport on the way back, I logged into the Squarespace app on my phone to continue editing the blog post of this trip. I was able to quickly add photos from the mobile app. You can go learn about this adventure and the other adventures I get up to in the future at asteeladventure.com. Did I mention it was this easy to add a product for sale on your Squarespace website? Well, it is. Hope this website can help motivate you to go find a cool adventure. And if you've got one in mind, you can always suggest it there with the handy dandy form that I built out. Of course, don't forget to go build your website at squarespace.com/forge. You get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase by clicking that link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.